Welcome to Unews for Thursday, January 30th. I'm Andrea Linares. Today, the Senate continues with another round of questioning as the battle over witness testimony heats up. So far, senators have asked more than 90 questions on everything from executive power to the ability to call witnesses. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi also weighing in today, saying the president will never be truly acquitted if senators do not hear from new witnesses. Republican Senator Lamar Alexander, one to watch on this witness issue, says he still has not made up his mind on how he will vote. Only 2 Republicans have suggested they're in favor of witnesses. That's Mitt Romney and Susan Collins. Alexander and Lisa Murkowski could give Democrats the 4 votes they need. And now for more on the impeachment trial, let's go to Chris. Now to the latest on the coronavirus. At least 170 people are dead and more than 8,000 cases have actually been confirmed in mainland China as the illness spreads rapidly across Asia and the rest of the world. Nearly 60 million people are under partial or full lockdowns in China, while more than 100 cases have been confirmed outside of the country. Lorraine Cáceres joins me with the latest on this situation. Lorraine.
Andrea, that is correct. We are now learning from the Centers for Disease Control reporting the first person-to-person spread of the coronavirus here in the United States. There are now 2 cases in Illinois. The first is a Chicago resident who traveled to China. The second person is the spouse of the first case who did not travel to China. The U.S. has plans to evacuate all Americans left in Wuhan, but the process will take a few days as the city is in lockdown. Some of the people left behind are upset that all consulate employees were evacuated first when many there are dealing with passport and visa problems. Back to you, Andrea.
Thanks so much, Lorraine, for that report. And now we head to Southern California as we continue to think of the 9 people who lost their lives in this past weekend's tragic helicopter crash. We're starting to hear from their families, heartbroken over their loss, including Kobe Bryant's wife, Vanessa, who says her family is completely devastated. Posting to social media, she says she understands what the other families are now going through, sharing in their grief intimately. Carolina Sarasa has more. Lives lost too soon. When we come back, the man who Welcome back to Unews. On Wednesday, the Pentagon announced 50 service members have been diagnosed with traumatic brain injuries following a series of Iranian missile attacks on an Iraqi base housing U.S. soldiers. That number, a sharp escalation from the originally reported number of 11 injured. Now, here to talk about the impact of brain injuries on service members is Jeremy Butler. And now moving on, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis announcing a new plan Wednesday that aims to prevent more tragedies like the man have identified the mystery man who heroically rescued a baby and helped those injured during a mass shooting at an El Paso Walmart last year. The man was homeless at the time, staying in a makeshift camp near that store. Lázaro Ponce and his wife just happened to be at the Walmart when the shooting broke out. Gianni Aponte has more on the man's courageous act. This week marks 1 year since the Trump administration started its Remain in Mexico policy. Advocates say the rule has put tens of thousands of asylum seekers in harm's way, while also making it more difficult for them to access protection in the U.S. Pedro Rojas has more on the policy's effects. While President Trump continues to promise miles of border wall along the U.S.-Mexico border, one wall will be up by the end of this week in South Texas. Nidia Cavazos joins us to tell us more about tonight's episode of Real America with Jorge Ramos. Nidia.
Thank you, Andrea. That's correct. In Mission, Texas, a wall has been under construction for the past month. It's being built on private property and it's privately funded. The wall's length 3 miles long, and the price tag so far a steep $40 million. All of this is invested with the hope of obtaining a federal contract to build hundreds of more miles of border wall along the Rio Grande. Let's take a look at a preview for tonight's episode. We'll have more tonight as to what's the controversy behind this wall and what are neighbors.
Thanks so much, Nidia, and of course, we'll be watching. Have a great one. And coming up, these are facing growing pressure to take action against a family that allegedly allowed their dogs to attack a puppy in their own backyard. As Xiomara Gonzalez Gobea explains, their neighbor says these incidents happen often, and we must warn you that some of the images you are about to see may be disturbing. And now to Kansas for a story that's hard to believe. Imagine looking into your couch for something you perhaps dropped and then finding an 8-foot snake under a cushion. Couldn't happen, right? But it did happen to one man outside Wichita, and as Jorge Hernandez explains, he's still trying to figure out exactly how the reptile got there. And after the break, the government of Nicolas Maduro said Wednesday that he is willing to mend broken diplomatic ties with Colombia. Maduro, your consumer news includes Linares. She is standing by in our newsroom with a preview of stories we are working on for the next hour of Unews. Caro, take it away.
Thank you, Andrea. We have more coming up in just minutes. As the coronavirus outbreak gets worse, we are learning new details about a cruise ship currently being held in quarantine in Italy. At least 6,000 people on board that ship. We have a special report. And also, with the trial of President Trump still dominating headlines, we will take a look at the senators who have had to leave the campaign trail to be a part of this historic moment in Washington. And we'll bring you a report from the border where a section of President Trump's wall has collapsed following high winds. The details and more coming up shortly. Andrea, now back to you.
Thanks so much, Caro. We'll be waiting for you. But coming up next, a North Carolina teen is still recovering in the hospital after he was paralyzed in a serious car accident earlier this month. While he's building back his strength, the community he's helping renovate his house to accommodate the wheelchair he is going to need when he returns home. Eileen Cardez has the story. Nate's got another surprise. Just last week, he's a big fan of Duke basketball, and the team's coach called him in the hospital. Nate is expected to have to stay there for 6 or 7 more weeks. Ellen DeGeneres and Alicia Keys are lending woman. And that does it for us for the first hour of Unews. But stay tuned. We have much more info coming up next with Carolina Sarasa.